Test. Testing 1, 2. got some 3D stuff. Just got my email today about
You expect them to be light?
No, but I was hoping No, she was back. I mean, he was the front.
Testing. Test 1 2. Test 1 2.
Dave, Dave, this is going to be a problem, right? I said, this is going to be a problem.
How's that?
No? Well, you know what I'm saying, feedback.
Are we testing? 1, 2, 3. Another.
I guess not. Did you turn it on yet? Mm-hmm. Did you turn it on yet? Mm-hmm. Okay. It's freezing now. Yeah.
July 15th is the auction.
Yeah. Yeah, I talked to John too. You told me that, and I talked to John a couple of days ago. Yeah. Whoa. Whoa. Everybody find a seat, please. Find a seat. Find a seat. Find a seat, please. A seat needs to be found. We have plenty of seats to find derrieres. Come and find yours. Find a seat. Thank you. Find a seat, please. Find a seat. Everybody find a seat. Oh, that's nice. Everybody get quiet. Very good. Okay. David, we're down to one. Mr. Mevo? Okay. All right, I want to welcome everyone to the May 19th, 2023 meeting of the New Jersey Antique Radio Club here at beautiful downtown Info Age. Do we have any new faces in the crowd? I believe we do. Do we do? Wait a minute. I thought I saw one. Oh, there you are. Yes, sir. Could you stand up and introduce yourself?
James Morandi. So this is my first meeting by Trust. So pleasure to be here.
Mr. James Miranda, what do you collect?
Oh my God, I collect everything.
Well, you know what? You belong here then.
Answer to what
And some German stuff.
Oh, you're talking about radios. We thought you collected like everything.
I'm talking about radios too. But anyway, it's a sickness. I'm just collecting. Yeah, we know all about it.
We call it the junk disease. Yes, J-U-Q-U-E.
I don't want to be cured, but if anybody has a pill or something that can cure it, my wife would. More radios. More radios. More radios.
Well, the cure is JD Auction Services or the dumpster. So JD Auction Services is a better choice. Good to have you. All right, great. We've got a nice crowd. Good, good. All right, moving on to infirmary report. Fortunately, I don't have anything recent with information. But we did, a few of us, a number of us actually, attended the Bruce Williams Memorial about a month ago. And it was great to see us and a lot of people from InfoAge there too. And his wife Phyllis put on a very nice spread, and family and friends showed up, and that was at the, I think, Hilton Spring Gardens, I think it was. And it was great. It was really nice. Nasty, nasty day. A lot of people showed up. That was great. All right. And speaking of memorials, Pete Grave, okay? Pete Grave will be having a memorial in his honor, so to speak. I heard from John Tomisky, and he filled me in with the particulars, which I will put on the communicator. I'll read them this evening. Believe me, you don't have to write them down. I'll definitely have them on the communicator when it comes closer. But something I found out that I didn't know, and I think a lot of you folks didn't know, is that Pete and Jan are Quakers. Did everybody know that, or am I the only one?
Pete's family were Quakers, yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea. And so, therefore, the memorial for him will be in Quakertown.
Friends meeting, which really has no official address.
Right, right. So the service will be held Monday, June 12th at noontime at the Friends Meeting House in Quakertown, and the address is the intersection of Mill Road and South Main Street. And believe it or not, you put that in and it will come up that way. And apparently it's a very ancient area, and Quakers have been in this country a hell of a long time. And they have a very interesting history, if you don't know it. Bill, you're looking quizzical.
What's the date?
What?
The date again.
I can't hear you.
The date again.
Oh, June 12th, Monday. Yeah. So if you can make it, I'll put it in the communicator, and we're going to have another meeting before then, and I'll reinforce it, okay? You know, Pete Grave was a great guy, great club member, both here in Delaware Valley Club, and he was quite a character, and you know, we miss him. And one of his favorite statements is when he was vending, he'd say, well, what do you want to pay for that? I used to love that, you know, and he put somebody else on the spot who's like thinking about buying. Well, what do you want to pay for it then? You know, I don't know. And he usually get his price when he did that. So anyway, we miss Pete, and again, if you can make it to the service, it'll be interesting. Look it up on Google, what a memorial service is for a Quaker. It's really interesting. Okay, so moving on. All right, on to old business. The weekend of April 21st, 22nd, radio station W2RTM celebrated International Marconi Day inside our RTM museum. The station was an official IMD contact station, so hams from all over the world were looking to make contacts with our WRTM station. Neville's not here, Al's here, Ted's here. Say something. Al, you want to say something? Ted, you want to say something?
Yes. Well, it's really interesting to be on the air when you have people looking to talk to you. And like Ted turns the transmitter on at 8 p.m. on Friday, which is 00 Zulu, and you have a pile up on you for people talking to you constantly for 3 hours on into the night. And we contacted a number of European stations, and in the middle of the night, we talked to Australia for a while. Total QSO count was pushing 800. I don't remember the exact number, but a good time was had by all. Come out and give us a hand with it next year. Should I say something about Field Day?
Please do.
Yeah, ARRL Field Day is coming up the 24th and 25th of June, right out here in the field. This will be about the third or fourth year we've done this. We're going to need to get some stuff rounded up, tents and generators and stuff like that. We're also going to have to make arrangements for food this year. Our chief cook is otherwise engaged, so we'll be able to take care of that. But it's a 24-hour event, and we have a good time and eat and all that. Our chief operators discovered in the middle of the night last year that wine actually improved their CW performance. So anyway, that's what's going on with W2RTM.
Okay, thank you, Al. I get close to everyone speaking because I have the mic for Mr. Bevo, all right? It's not that I'm not lovable, believe me. All right. Okay. Okay, great. All right, last weekend, Delaware Valley Historic Radio Club hosted their K-Town Antique Radio Club, and I'm forgetting the numeration. What was that? 47. Can you imagine? 47 of them, almost half a century's worth. Great, great to hear.
Well, that's 2 a year.
Well, it's 2 a year. All right, so 25 years. I like to exaggerate.
Not quite as.
All right, who vended, who attended? I was a vendor, and I think I saw like a third of the club there, and it was great to see everybody. When we don't see them.
Well attended.
Yeah.
And beautiful weather.
It was too damn hot, to tell you the truth. It was really hot.
It's very nice.
I never experienced so hot a K-Town.
No rain, we didn't have any.
No, that's true. That's true. Yeah. But both pavilions were packed, and of course, it's more and more audio, which is fine. It's okay, not a problem. And there was a lot of radios for sale, a lot, to the point where myself as a vendor, I was like, yeah, that's a hell of a lot of competition, And of course, the White Room, you had your auction, thanks to JD Auction Services, and thanks to Radio Wild Bob Bennett with his video, which if you haven't seen yet, please do see. All right, thank you, Bob. Everybody enjoyed that video.
So I've been watched 1,100 times.
That's all?
Lowered it down.
Did you monetize it just for that?
Oh yeah, I made over $5.
All right. Well, that's, what do you charge that? 15%?
I have nothing to do with what gets charged.
No. I mean for the monetization of your channel to JD Auction Services. Okay. Speaking of that, the next JD Auction Service, which will be in July 15th, all right? And it'll be down at the Firehouse again, and that'll pretty much what it's always going to be in Jackson. Okay. Yeah. All right. Good. All right.
It's actually the Saturday before Sussex.
Sussex, which is the 16th.
So for those who are making a pilgrimage to the state of New Jersey, it kind of gives 2 reasons to come to the same weekend. So.
Yeah. No, it's a hot and heavy time. This is where we get out, and hopefully we all have great weather too. Okay.
It's not raining in the Firehouse anymore. They fixed it.
Well, that's a good thing. So. All right. Okay. Last month, I attended the semi-annual Club Presidents Forum of InfoAge via Zoom. 11 club presidents give reports of the status of their club to Colonel Mike, CCO of InfoAge. He talks about the status of InfoAge pertaining to grants and the future developments of InfoAge. And it's something we get called upon to do, I'll say every 6 months. Sometimes it's quicker, sometimes it's less, but it's something we have to do. And it's nice to learn about other clubs and what they're doing. Which, speaking of that, you saw this, and they're calling it, this is from the VC, and they go under the technology swap meet, okay? And it seems to include everything, vintage computers, electronics, radios, TVs, amateur radios, old televisions, old toasters, and irons. Whatever you want, bring it, and they'll sell it. It's in the large parking lot next to the college. So I've been there. Bobby, you've attended, you've sold there too, right? And I think Ray did too also. But anyway, so that's happening June 10th. All right. Okay. All right. This past Wednesday, I visited the club's accountant, and that's Steve Kelleher, and that's in Ridbank, and he files our 2022 paperwork with the IRS. Ever since we got status as a 501c3 charity, is something we have to do. Obviously, we pay for it. I was very fortunate to find Steve. He's a great guy. He doesn't gut us like some other accountants tried to. And consequently, I made him my accountant too. It's nice to be able to sit down and talk to somebody instead of saying, well, send me the paperwork. I'll talk to you over the phone, that kind of crap. So I really appreciate Steve, and he appreciates us. And he knows how to deal with us and our charity, so that's great. All right, I know I'm jumping around, but on May 6th, we had our spring repair clinic here at InfoAge. A nice number of experts and clients showed up. And, it was a nice, quiet day. It was nice. No craziness, nobody looking at their watch. I got to go. When are you going to get this radio fixed? I got to go pick up my kids from practice. Can you get this done today? Because I'd like to put it on eBay tonight. Which, believe it or not, we've had that in the past. Believe it or not. Fortunately, we don't have that anymore. Thank goodness. All right. And, we've got some items aligned, fixed, and some even record players working, too. Any comments about our spring repair clinic? No?
I've just become really proficient in silver mic disease lately.
Well, it's a sign of the time, so to speak. A lot of our members are mid-century people who enjoy mid-century radios. And mid-century radios happen to have the K-Tran transformers, and it's time. And what?
Automatic.
And automatic. So it's just time for them. It's time. To the point where, when we talk about our capacitors, mica caps, don't worry about mica caps. Don't worry about mica caps. Well, you know what? It's their time too, because now and again you're seeing more of that they're going bad now too. So.
It's rare, but they go bad.
Yep. Whereas 20 years ago, don't worry about it. Well, 20 years later, no, you have to worry about it.
20 years ago, you could still find radios with good filter capacitors from the 50s. Not anymore.
No, that's exactly it. Yeah.
You want a filter capacitor?
Okay. All right. Let me go on to new business. All right. The continued saga of the amplitude modulation of radios that our car manufacturers are deleting from their vehicles. I see and hear a lot of push-pull from both citizens and from our politicians. I hope you read this month's broadcaster, because we have a list of stations, AM stations, that our membership, I asked the last time we had a meeting, to call in on on email to me or on the phone, whatever you want to do, smoke signals, but just let me know what you listen to on AM radio. Because a lot of people think, well, there's nothing to listen to on AM radio. Well, that's not true. And in a way, it's sacrilegious for what we do, and we got to continue listening to AM radio. So we have a nice list, and it's a lot of different items, and there's a lot of items to do with music. There's a lot of stations that deal with music. From right here, you can 1100 is WLIR, which is oldie station from Freeport, Long Island. Okay, and you can hear it. So it's not as so it's not as if you can't hear music. Yeah. Look at the list. I think we had about 5 stations that had music on them. All right, and of course, then the others talk, ball. Weather, things, I gave my daughter, who lives in New York City now, a radio, because she's always asking me, calling me up or emailing, what's the weather today, Dad? I said, that about? Don't you have a radio? No, I don't, Dad. You know, well, I'm going to give you a radio, dear. You're going to have your own radio, and you're going to twist the knob on when you get up in the morning, and you're going to learn about the day's weather. How about that? The latest invention. It's about 120 years old now.
What wakes people up in the morning if not a clock radio, no? Isn't that how you get up?
Phones. The phone, okay? Darren, the phone. With the alarm on the phone.
CBS 2 New York on the news the other day, they actually had a story on it, and they were raising everyone's awareness that in certain vehicles that they were doing away with AM in cars, and they actually spoke to a couple people. One of them was, I can't remember the name, he's a congressman from New Jersey that was in some kind of scandal a few years ago, but
Bob, that's not a problem.
I don't want to mention his name because we're on YouTube, but anyway, he's going to be looking into it. He's going to be talking to other people about it and see what they can do.
I think it was the younger Mendez.
Oh, yes, well, you know what I'm talking about.
Getting that much trouble yet.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's coming to fruition now, so it's getting more notoriety and
Yeah.
hopefully something will happen.
Yeah. My problem with this, I hear this and I've never been able to do it. Maybe you guys can solve it for me. A lot of the radio stations say, all right, let your Congress know about this and text AM 52886. Well, I don't know. I tried doing that. It doesn't do anything. Has anybody tried this? I don't understand it. How are you supposed to do that? I don't know. Anyway, my local congressman, I let him know, Mike Lawler, about it. Okay. All right, moving along. The Nevick Club, New England, Vintage Electronics Club. They advertised, okay, club member here, Paul Baresh, who happens to be from Boston, in the environs. Now, Paul Baresh was the host of Tube Talk Radio. He had his own station, well, he had his own program on a small station in Boston. Quite a few, well, not that, maybe, all right, 10 years ago. Time flies. Paul Baresh has got one of those voices for radio. And he got
website, you can go and listen to your own self talking. But it was very good. It was interesting. So anyway, it turns out that Nevick was promoting Paul on a talk radio station, WBAZ, a program on
No, it's WBZ.
Why do you say WBAZ?
I don't know.
Old age. So anyway, I said, hey, I can DX. I'm going to DX WBZ, and I did.
That's an easy station.
Yeah, it is. It's a flamethrower.
That particular night, though, the conditions weren't very good. I had to listen to that online, unfortunately.
I was able to get it on one of my boat anchors.
I even took my Sanjane radio, that's one of my better radio, I couldn't pick it up.
Yeah. So I figured, let me listen, and Paul was on, and it was the Morgan Show, at 9 o'clock WBZ on at Saturday nights. I guess it's on all the time. So what happened was, I'm listening, and it was kind of quiet. A couple of guys called in with stupid questions and stuff about old radio. And so I said, well, what the hell? I can do that. So the producer said, I called up to call the number, and I got on. And I was like number 2 on. And I said, all right, now I'm going to audio bomb his show. And so what I did was I put on my best, Brooklyn accent, and I got on saying, Mr. Baresh, you think you can make some time to come down to the RTM Museum and take a tour? Because I realized that you had promised at one time to come down and see us, and blah, blah, blah. And he said, before I got the whole sentence done, he said, I know this is you, Rich. I know it's you. And so from then on, he and I co-guested on the show for about 2 or 3 minutes. And it was a lot of fun. And he's a good egg. And I did, the following day, I did email him and apologize for audio bombing his show. but he said it's fine. It was not a problem. It was great.
One thing I did notice though, in listening to that show, is that the moderator of the
Yeah.
program was very easily distracted.
Yeah.
Because you guys went to that show for like 15 minutes before they even took a phone call, because he went off on some tangent.
Yes, yeah, the Morgan
what I'm
show.
talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah. Well, it's 9 o'clock Saturday night, it's not the prime time of shows
So I
anywhere.
must have been polishing up on some of their better adult beverages that evening, or went to the.
It may have happened. Yeah, may have happened, yeah. So Paul, if you're listening, watching tonight, I hope you didn't mind again. So anyway, good time. It was good. And I hope Paul to come down and see our RTM. Because in essence, Paul and I have never met. I've been to Boston once and he couldn't make it. And he just hasn't been here. He hasn't gone to K-Town either. So it's another bucket list he wants to go. So the funny part for me, I'm just thinking, here I am on a flamethrower station in Boston, which is probably 50,000 watts. And I've never been on WABC in New York, what the hell, But I got on Boston, so it was fun. Okay, that's enough of that. All right. Moving, I don't have any other new business I can think of, other than continuing the need for docents.
There is Bill Sloma, and James Morandi has volunteered.
Oh, James, all right.
And traffic has, in fact, picked up. Last Sunday, for example, I didn't get lunch until about 4:30. So, just to give you a sense of what it's been like. So, come out, volunteer. It's really fun.
Let's thank the new docents.
And George Kelly, by the way, is one of our new members as well.
Thank you,
new
George.
attendees as well. So, please.
It's summertime and
sign
it's
up
difficult.
and come.
We understand.
Right. Speaking of which, we're not going to have meetings here this summer, right?
We never do.
Right. We're having them in Princeton. Okay. Anyway, so contact Ray Chase. Contact me if you're interested. We're working people into the rotation right now. So please come.
Thank you, Harry. Harry, you're the point man pretty much now for docents to sign up with?
Ray and myself, yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, now, since you're, let's move on to Ham Shack Corner then. Since you're sitting here, obviously you're not in Xenia, Ohio, okay? Where Hamvention starts this weekend. So I know we've had members who've been there, yes? Yeah, you grew up in Ohio, why not, right?
I didn't go until I moved here.
That makes sense. Who else has been to Hamvention? Okay, anybody else? Right, of course, yeah. Well, it's a bucket list for me too, yeah. All right, great. I know I've only had good responses from people with shopping carts full of stuff to bring home. Huge, yeah.
Like 4 Sussexes.
Four times Sussex, okay. All right, which is, like you said, July 16th, Sunday. Okay. All right, so the ham season is upon us, and Barra Ham Fest is our next one, which is at Westwood High School, which is next Saturday, the 27th, which I always like. It's a good one. It's a good one. Not only because it's close to me, but it's good. The other one is Raritan Valley Club Ham Fest, which is Saturday, June 17th, and that's Piscataway High School. And Long Island, the Long Island L.I. Mark Ham Fest is on Sunday, June 11th. Look, I mentioned last month, Ria Jaram, I stepped aside as ARRL Hudson River Director, and her vice director has taken over, a man named Nomar Viscarando, NP4H. I'm going to try and contact him, and maybe we'll get him over here and just have him introduce himself to us. All right, he's taken over for her. That's not to say he's been voted in, but he's filling in for, I think, her last 3 years. So, I don't know the reason why she's left. Obviously, she has kids, and she does have a new job. Maybe that has something to do with it. So, whatever. I wished her well as soon as I found out. Okay. Anything else on Ham Shacks on Hamshack Corner that I'm missing? I think the Fairfield Club. I think Fair Lawn. I'm sorry, Fair Lawn, June 10th. Anybody remember that? And I think it was. I think who was talking to us? Fred was talking to us about it because he runs that. I didn't see it though.
Yeah, Fair Lawn is June 10th.
Yeah. Okay.
Same day as VCF down here.
As VCF down here.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
take your choice.
Yeah, take it, okay. All right, so that covers them. All right, so, and obviously there's going to be more and more as time goes on. Okay.
One more.
Yes,
The Black Sheep around here are having a Ham Fest June 3rd.
the what?
Hallmark?
Oh, the,
Yeah.
you got me there, Ian. Very good, very good. Yeah, that's in Silver Lake.
Yeah, Spring Lake.
Spring Lake.
They're a small one, but
Yeah, they were small when they were here, and now they're even smaller, I understand. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, there was a point in the beginning where we weren't allowed to even say that word. Okay. All right, look, after a short break, sale of 50/50 tickets. All right, we're going to have an incredible presentation by Darren Hoffman, bender of metal, okay? He's a real bender, all right? Something totally different, something, hey, a lot of us would like to know how to do, and Darren knows how to do it, and he's going to show us how to do it. So that's great. And then we'll have, after that, we'll have an auction of these boat anchors here. Phil Renon has brought in some radios for sale over there. Phil Vortzis had brought in some radios for sale over there. Phil Renon had brought in some 45 radios there that are free. And we also have club t-shirts and club polo shirts for sale. Yes, I know a lot of the sizes are not there, but you know, maybe a t-shirt for a grandchild or the little woman, if she's really a little woman, you get into a small or a medium, okay? All right, so who's going to help with the sale of the 50/50 tickets? Oh, I see a volunteer now. Who else is volunteering? All right, Sal, thank you.
Sal, you and me?
All right, all right.
Yay!
Thank you, thank you.
You want to take the money? Yeah, who's that? All right, step right up. 50/50. 1 for 1 and 2 for 2.
it just so happens that I have exactly 50 dollars. I probably wasn't going to drop it off. Tomorrow I'm at, so tomorrow I am
trucks in the state of New Jersey were that, not school bus yellow, like that high-vis yellow, sign yellow. 80s. All fire trucks are red, not a jack.
How long did it last?
Not with
Chassis punch on the
That's what
side.
that's what they are. Yeah, because it differentiates them from the conduit size punches, which you can use, but they're different sizes. Yeah.
What's the thing next to the wrench?
Microphone?
Yeah, it's probably anything.
All right, folks, you've had enough time, you've had enough fun. Sit down and find a seat. For a grand total, talking to the ticket. For a grand total of $22, right here in my hand. The number is Italy. Huh? Okay, Mr. Treasurer, more money for the future. Okay. All right. I promised to say something, now I forgot what the hell it was. I'll say it in a little while. Anyway, as you will know, that our next meetings are for the summer are all in Princeton, okay? Bone Hall, Princeton, all right? Just remember that. Okay. Dave, are we ready to go with this? All right. Okay, so without any further ado, I'd like to introduce you to our club member, Darren Hoffman, one of our younger members of the club. How about that? The bilateral owner of JD Auction Services, and he will come up
and he will demonstrate and give us a PowerPoint on metal bending for our hobby. Take it away, Darren. Yeah, once you do that.
You see how this works. Just sort of clip that on.
Yeah.
That's good? Yeah, okay.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, so, sorry.
And the middle button of that thing gets you a laser, by the way.
Oh, okay, okay. So what I'm going to go over with you guys tonight is a very basic introduction to some techniques that you may or may not have seen or know of for working with metal relating to radio and electronics. So we'll talk about basic tools, how to use them, a method for simplified layout, cutting, bending, and shaping, repairs and modifications, and safety. So why am I doing this? I worked, later ran the maintenance shop of vocational school for 22 years. A large part of my work was in metal fabrication, quite often in conjunction with electric and electronics. So a lot of what I did kind of revolved around this. And I would like to share some basic hints and tricks to simplify what is sometimes seen as a bit of a black art. That is, it's just not something people talk about or know about. So there are basic tools. Let's see, how long was this? Oh, it was snagged on the wheel. Okay, so some of the basic tools, the real basic stuff, you need a drill. You can use something just as simple as a C-clamp, although I recommend using a vise. You need a square, center punch, hammer, basic pair of tin snips, and a good set of drill bits. When you work with metal, cheap drill bits really don't cut it, literally, for long. So a better set of bits is generally recommended. There are some more advanced tools that make your life a lot easier and your work a lot neater, and we'll go over that too. The most important tool are the 2 years in a school. I can tell you point blank that this is very important, especially with metal. I've had metal in my eye twice, and I was wearing glasses when that happened, so it can happen. I had a bandsaw throw a piece of metal, hit me here, bounced off the lens and into my eye, but because I had the glasses on, it bounced off and it didn't do any real damage. So always remember that you can't do much else if you can't see. Choosing the metal and the materials, aluminum, that's the stuff on the left here, is softer. Steel is harder. It tends to be cheaper and it's more available, but it's harder to work with. But it has its advantages also. Aluminum is soft, it bends easily when you're trying to work on it. Those are both prefabricated chassis boxes, which are readily available. They're not too expensive. And the first thing I want to talk about is a little simplified method of doing layout, right? So usually when you do layout, you would draw on the metal you're going to work with, or draw it on a piece of paper. And I like to use graph paper because I didn't have a piece for this, but graph paper is nice because it's already gridded out. So you can draw on the graph paper and not have to really measure point to point, because you can use the intersections of the lines as your points and then work from there, and it simplifies things. And you use regular paper, and I'm sure today a lot of guys are good with the computer. You could do CAD and print it out on your printer, right? And then you have it on paper. So then what I recommend is to get a piece of carbon paper, manifold paper. Remember typing on manifold copies and stuff? You can still get it. We used to use master units at the school from the old Spirit duplicators, similar stuff. You take a piece of carbon, you lay your template, you lay your drawing on top of the carbon, you put the carbon on top of the chassis, and then what you could do is you take either a ballpoint pen. This is a ball stylus. They used to use these for cutting mimeograph stencils, but they're great for impressing on the carbon. You can use a ballpoint pen, and you run it along your lines, and then what you get, this is a chassis box, there's your perfect transfer through the carbon right onto the box. Now, the caveat here is it's a lot easier to do this on steel than aluminum. The carbon doesn't stick to the aluminum quite as well. If you rough it up a little, it sticks better. But it's a really quick way. Draw it either on your computer, on a graph paper or regular paper, lay it over, and just run your lines, and there you have it. The other thing that you can do is you can use a prick punch. Now, we'll get into that in a minute. You draw it on regular paper, lay it over, and then you mark your holes through your template with what's called a prick punch. Now, once you've done that, you're going to center punch, which is a pointed punch. And you take, there's two styles. There's the standard center punch is just a steel punch, and you strike it with a hammer. And then there's a really fancy one that's got a spring in it, and you just set it on the site and you press it, and it has an impact device in it, right? Marks a point. It's a little extravagant. You don't need that. Now, center punches, well, yeah, here we go. My slide got out of order. Okay. So a few words about center punches and prick punches. I used to get a real laugh out of this when I talked about this at the school. I don't ever understood why. The center punch is a very blunt, very short, shallow angle punch with a sturdy tip, and it's used for impressing a hole, a small dimple into a piece of metal to center your twist drill when you're ready to drill. The prick punch is a very pointed, sharp punch with a very delicate tip, and it's used on paper patterns. You use that to punch through the pattern and make your mark on the surface. Now, it's a great tool. Don't use it as a center punch, because once you do that, you start to blunt the sharp, fragile tip, and it's not going to really do its job anymore. So that's just a little tip about it. You don't need a prick punch. They're just great if you've got a template, you make a nice, clear mark through it. So we'll talk about cutting sheet metal. Now that can be challenging, but with some basic tools, the process can be simplified with better results. When you talk, it's thin and it fits between the teeth of the hack. A little piece of metalworking theory is that when you're cutting with a saw blade, you generally, the rule of thumb is you want 2 to 3 teeth of the saw blade supported by the edge of the metal, meaning the thickness of the metal versus the number of teeth per inch on your saw blade are relative. If you try to use a hacksaw, standard hacksaw on sheet metal, it's just going to sit, the teeth will just sit on the metal and you won't get a clean cut. So we use tin snips, aviation shears. These are the most common tools that we use for cutting sheet metal. Nibbling tools and power shears, sometimes they used to call them ket cutters. That was the company that came out with them. And big bench and stomp shears are progressively more expensive, that can speed work and give you even cleaner results. So this here is what we generally refer to as a set of aviation shears. They are improved sheet metal shears. The old sheet metal shears basically look like a big pair of scissors. These are a compound tool. It has a compound leverage device. If you're looking to buy a set, the only ones that I would recommend are the Metal Masters, but they're a little expensive. You know, there's other stuff out there today that's cheaper, and if you're not using it a lot, they'll work. That happens to be a right-handed shear. They come straight, right-handed, and left-handed, and that's to get into different areas. Usually you have a set of them. They work really well, but it's difficult because they tend to distort the metal as you squeeze them. You got to be careful, because when the metal is thin, you tend to bend and twist, and it's a bit challenging. This is a better way. And years ago, I would say this was somewhat untenable for someone who doesn't do this often. But nowadays, I see that our friends over in Red China have introduced much less expensive ones on the market that I assume would be pretty good if you're not using them every day. This is a power shear. And I brought one here, and I'll show you how it works. Basically, what it is a punch in a die with a motor, and it automatically it runs, and you get a nice clean cut, and it's almost like using a jigsaw, but it actually punches up and down, and it cuts the metal very cleanly, like butter. Actually, it goes like a hot knife through butter, as they say. Now this is what is used, and I'm sorry that the bench it's on is a mess, but most of you guys can probably understand that. This is what you use when you're doing a lot of stuff. This is a small version of a commercial shear. It's a bench shear, and that makes a perfectly straight, clean edge, and you have your squaring edge over here, and you feed the metal in, and you pull the handle down and get a nice clean cut. But again, that's extravagant, and you don't need that. I'm just putting it there so you see how this is done in the commercial environment. So then we talk about bending metal, right? Now, again, the best way to bend metal is on either a bar folder or a box brake. The difference, or finger brake. The difference being box brakes and finger brakes have relief grooves in them, and fingers you can adjust so that you can, if the piece you're bending has an edge that's already bent, you can relieve it and it doesn't hit the brake. But I'll show you one. I brought one here, you can see. But you don't need that. A bench vise and a hammer can produce surprisingly good results. And if you need something longer, you can take 2 C-clamps and a strip of steel on the edge of a bench, clamp your metal, and then you can again use the hammer and bend a straight line. You can bend it using pliers, but that seldom produces clean results, and you generally can't get a straight bend over a long distance, a long piece of metal. So here's an example of using a hammer and the vise to bend the metal. So you put your metal and you square it to the jaw of the vise, and then you strike it with the hammer, and you progressively move back and forth across, and you can get a nice clean bend using the jaw of the vise as a guide. And it works well. The trouble is, because the vice jaw is only so wide, you're limited as to how much you can do with that, although you can move it back. You've moved it in the jaw of the vise. So this is a small benchtop brake, which it has the jaw and it has the movable bar, and then you fold there, you put the handle in there, and you bend it up. And that's the result when you used the brake. That one, they used to sell those years ago, but I think there's a copy of that also comes from Harbor Freight now. It's almost like, it's just a, like a ripped off design, and they're not that expensive. So now we'll get into making holes. So sometimes making large holes, or those that are not round, can be one of the most challenging tasks for the amateur chassis builder. There are several methods, and we're going to go into a few of those, going from holes below 1/2 inch all the way up to holes big enough for a 12-inch speaker. Just remember, with holes, they all start small and round, and then you make them whatever shape you want or make them bigger. And that even goes with drill bits. So before any hole is made, you have to, if you're working with metal, you have to use a center punch. And the purpose of using the center punch is because you want to make that little indentation in the metal. Because if you don't, what you're going to find is that your drill bit is going to, your twist drill is going to want to walk, right? Even if you're using a drill press, your twist drill is going to want to walk, especially a small bit will start to bend as it starts in the hole. Having the little center punch dimple there will allow the cutting tip of the drill bit to rest in that hole and not walk, and you'll get your hole accurately exactly where you want it. So that's the purpose of using the center punch. So this is something else that I stress, is that you always have to put your work in a vise or clamp it to a bench. Never hold it with your hand, especially sheet metal. It is sharp enough, and the motors on even these cordless drills are strong enough that they will take your finger off. So it's really imperative that you clamp it either with a C-clamp or in a vise. And by the way, I want to point out, this is a metalworking vise. It has toothed jaws to hold things well. But if you want to protect what you're working on, they sell these little non-marring jaws. These actually have rubber on the inside, a copper set, and those are made so that when you put something you want to look good in a vise, you don't wind up impressing the vise teeth into it. Those are magnetic. They go right on the vise jaws. But you don't need a fancy bench vise. Just a C-clamp will do. You clamp it to the top of a bench, and for what you're doing, it's quite safe. So what I was starting to say about holes starting small, if your final hole, for argument's sake, is going to be a 1/2 inch, don't take the 1/2 inch drill bit and start drilling the hole, because what you're going to wind up with is your arm twisted up like this and the metal bent and a whole lot of other one and a jagged hole. Start off with your 1/4 inch drill bit. Drill your 1/4 inch hole. Now move up to 3/8, then go to 1/2 inch, and you'll get a nice clean hole right where you want it without mangling the metal. And that's something, again, people don't talk about or realize, but it makes it so much cleaner and safer. Now, once we've gotten past the round holes or small holes, we can make larger holes for tube sockets or IF transformers, things of that nature. And the best way to do that is with something called a Greenlee punch. And there are other ones out there. These were from Walsco. There was a set Lafayette used to sell. It was made in Japan, and they really are actually decent. If you're not using them every day, I've seen that those old Japanese sets work great. Basically, what the Greenlee punch is you have the punch itself, which has the cutting edge, and you have the draw stud. And this is the resulting knockout that you get after you've used the Greenlee punch. So the way you use the Greenlee punch is you first drill the hole in the piece of work that is the proper size for the draw stud of the Greenlee punch that you're using, right? You can make it a little bigger, but just know if you make it bigger, you might not be exactly on center. You have to pay attention to that when you use the punch. So you drill your hole for your draw stud, and then you assemble the punch, which comes apart. You put the punch on one side, the cup and the draw stud on the other, and then you put a wrench on the punch while holding the work. And the final result is a nice clean hole. Now, the Greenlee punches cut really clean holes, but sometimes with aluminum, because it's so soft, especially aluminum, will give you a bit of a burred edge. Okay, I'm using a deburring tool here, which has a little hardened steel cutter, and you drag it around the circle, and it really just deburrs it nicely. But you can use a nice fine file, always a fine tooth finishing file with sheet metal, again for the same reason as with a hacksaw, because you want the teeth close together or you're just going to chatter and tear the edge out. Another method of making small holes is with something which it's a hand punch, usually called a Whitney punch, because that was the company that made the majority of them forever. And really what it is a glorified hole punch, handheld hole punch. And you have a set of punches, right, and receivers here, and you change the punch can be changed. I brought one here if you want to take a look at it. And you basically open it up, you put it over the edge of the work, and there you go. It makes a nice clean hole, doesn't make a mess, and it punches a nice clean hole. Again, they're for sheet metal. And again, like everything else today, you can get an imported one rather inexpensively, and they're kind of handy to have. But you don't need that. You can use a drill, but that's just, if you're doing it, it's a quicker, cleaner way. And another method of making larger holes is with a hole saw. Now, that's a tool that's used for wood and metal. Now, when you buy them for metal, you have to get one, the hardened steel, or what they call bimetal teeth. Otherwise, it's, the ones that are made just for wood are not going to go even through sheet metal. This one here happens to be designed specifically for sheet metal. It has the little carbide teeth, and it's specifically designed to cut sheet metal cleanly. You can use any metal cutting hole saw. They come all the way up to like 3 inches. right? And if you're real careful, you can use them, but they chatter a lot. You really got to clamp the material well. And they can tear up the edge of the hole a little bit, but they work well enough. I mean, that's one way to go about it, and they're a lot less expensive than the Greenlee punches. And then there are those very large holes, like for a 12-inch speaker or a 5-inch speaker or what have you. And this is a really neat tool to use for making big holes. And what it is, this is actually designed for and normally used in the HVAC trade for cutting ductwork where ducts intersect. And it has this little pin. It's sort of like a bar compass, right? Or a compass, or really a beam compass, they used to say. So it has this pin, and it has this rotating drill bit in here, which is really more like a mill cutter. And what you do is you take this drill bit, and I have it here, you can take a look at it. You drill the hole in the material. You take that out, and this little piece has a barb on the end of it, and you pop it into the hole, and it holds itself in. And then you hold that in one hand, and you use the drill, and the tool cuts very well, and it goes around like a compass, and it makes a perfect round hole. And the best part is, these are not that expensive. I think they're less than $50, or they used to be. And they work so well, and they make such clean holes. And they make this that goes up to 20 inches. This one's a 12-inch, which is really all you're going to need for what you're doing, but they make them that are like up to 20 inches. That's a really handy, it's a radius cutter. And they've been around, they're not that old, they've only been around about, I guess, about 30 years, but it makes really neat work. And then you have non-round holes. And again, you can use square and other shaped Greenlee punches that come in different shapes and sizes. But again, you'd be going and spending a lot of money for a specific punch, which might not really be that great a move. So that's where this nibbling tool comes in. And you can also use it to cut through metal, but what it does is you insert it into a round hole. And I have pieces here, you could try it and you'll see what it looks like. You can actually, it has a square cutting die in there. It's a punch and die setup. And it basically works similar to a Greenlee punch, but you control it with your hand and you squeeze it and it punches and it cuts square edges. So you want to put a slide switch, you want to cut in an IF transformer or anything like that. These nibbling tools are wonderful. Now what I will tell you is I use the word Adel because the Adel is the original manufacturer of those tools. They're still around, you can still get them. I think they're now up to about $55. The phone company was big with those. Klein Tools sold that tool. I'm sure it was made by Adel because I have one that's identical and it's just as well made. They used to sell them at Home Depot. I don't know if they still do. And maybe they were a little less, but they're in and around the $40 to $50 range. And they're well worth it because they make such nice cuts. There are cheaper ones. I had one from Radio Shack years ago. And again, it worked. It did the job. It wasn't, it broke eventually, but I used it a lot. But you don't have to buy the best one, but once you've used it, it's hard to go back to the other type. So in closing, this is in no way a complete course on the construction of a radio chassis. It's simply just a how-to, some of the more common and troublesome things people run into. Always remember safety first. Metal is sharp. It can cut and give you splinters and wind up in eyes, and it's always wear eye protection. And remember, power tools have no friends. And that was what we used to tell the kids at the school. Power tools have no friends. So happy building, and I have some stuff here so I could show you. I have the nibbling tool here. I bought round and square Greenlee punches. There's the circle cutter. There's a Whitney punch, and this is a deburring kit. This is an edge deburr. You drag along the edge. This is a hole deburr. Again, unnecessary, but you know, so you get to see what they look like. This is the power shear. If you want to see that work, we can try that out. And this is a sheet metal cutting hole saw. So, and this is the small brake. So, does anybody have any questions? First of all, yeah.
Just to make a clarification.
Yeah. Well, let me bring something, because there's something that I wanted to mention. Okay. And are still sold as radio chassis punches. And they come in fractional sizes, and size tube sockets, whatever and they still make all the Greenlee punches they made 50 years ago. They still make all the different sizes. The only thing that's changed is the price. They used to be $15. Now they're 60, 70, 80. Okay. You could find them, Hamfests, state sales, things like that. Now, there are a lot of Greenlee punches around. 3/4 is perfect. If I remember right, an octal tube socket's about inch, and so it worked for that. So, but the ones that you would really be looking for are called radio chassis punches. And if you're looking at old ones, the other company that made decent ones was Wolsco, and they called them Pioneer punches, and they did the same thing. I've seen other ones. Blackhawk made them. There's a few different companies, but again, there are radio chassis punches and there are trade size punches. But you can use them. You just have to know what the nominal diameter is versus the size printed on the punch. Yeah.
If I see some of the yard sale or can you wear out Greenlees?
Yeah, you can. But honestly, if you look at the edge, you feel it with your finger. If it feels crisp, if it looks clean like that, they're okay. More commonly, the draw studs get busted on them, right? That's the biggest common failure, is the busted draw studs, because somebody tried to punch through something too thick, or because the punch is so dull that they're exerting so much force that the draw studs break. And you can buy new draw studs for them.
In the electrical industry, you don't use it by hand, you use
The hydraulic.
hydraulic punch.
Yeah.
And I have seen 3-inch punches go flying.
Yeah.
Because they're dull or they're off center on 2 pieces of metal cabinet, and they will just, you'll get hurt.
When I worked at the school, I wasn't watching it. I had somebody try to punch, I should say a kid, it was actually another staff member, tried to punch through a piece of diamond plate with a Greenlee punch. Now, he had seen me do that, but I did it to aluminum. So I figured out that the hydro worked fine with the aluminum. And they're even rated differently for but he didn't realize he did it with a piece of steel. And that punch, the end of that punch, the draw stud broke on it was a hydraulic and just pumping it. Yeah, it went flying like a bullet. It actually bounced off a machine and it made a clank when it bounced off the machine. But the hydraulic punches are fun, but they're a lot of money. You don't need that. But yeah, these work great. These work great. And if you want to try it out, I brought a wrench. I have some chassis with holes pre-drilled in them, so we can try it out and like that. So any other questions? Okay, yeah.
I noticed that while you were going over tips, you didn't really mention chalking anything with a piece of wood, so that, like, usually when I work on things, I tend to use wood to, like, clamp in between.
You can use wood as a backer if you're drilling a hole, depending on what you're trying to. Now, if you're trying to hold something in a vise or on the edge of a bench and it's sticking out real far, you use a piece of wood as a backer. You don't always need that, but the problem when you do that with sheet metal, sometimes the chips will cause the metal to get stuck to the wood, and then you'll try to bend it when you try to put, you can use wood, but depends what you're doing. It depends what you're doing, whether you need it or not. Sharp, the best thing I can recommend, if you're going to invest in good something, buy good drill bits, because I've had people call me up I had a friend call me up. He was trying to do something with one of his trailers, and he says, I can't drill through this trailer. I don't understand. Can you come here and heat it with a torch so I can, it must be tempered. I said, they don't make trailers out of, it might be high carbon, but they don't make trailers out of hardened steel. Well, I can't drill through it. So I go over there and I look at the drill bit he was using. I said, here, let's try another drill bit. And it went right through. So drill bits, if there's one area that things are not created equal, it's drill bits. I don't know why there's so many bad drill bits on, well, I do know why, but yeah, bad drill bits. If you buy a cheap index of drills, I recently found out that there was a company that got caught making the bits in China, of course. And what drill bits do you use? 1/8 inch, 1/16, 1/4 inch, 3/8, 1/2 inch, right, 3/8. And what they were doing is those bits would be high carbon, or excuse me, high speed steel. And then the other bits were garbage metal that they dipped in a phosphate bath to make them black, like they did with the high speed. And they filled in the indexes with this garbage that when you went to drill, they either untwisted if they caught, or they just dulled right out and didn't go through. So, you know, there's a lot of crappy drill bits floating around. Yeah.
Can it ever be helpful to warm up your material?
Not really, not with sheet metal. It's not, no, I wouldn't, especially not aluminum, because aluminum doesn't even have any color change, so you might just, you're not dealing with anything so hard that you need to warm it up. I mean, if you have hardened steel and you need to drill it, you have to take the temper out of it. Yeah, you anneal it, but to do that with sheet metal for anything we're doing here is not really. You know.
What about lubricating?
Again, drilling into sheet metal, it's not that critical. The one thing I would lubricate, if you're going to be using a lot, is the draw stud on the Greenlee punch. You put a couple of drops of oil on that. It'll make that a little easier and make your punch last longer. Yeah.
Eric, what kind of drill bits can you recommend?
What do I recommend? Yeah, Milwaukee, we had some Milwaukee indexes that were decent. Yeah, they're not bad. They were okay. What do I recommend? I recommend Greenfield, Chicago Latrobe. There's a number of them. You're not going to find them in Home Depot, and you're going to pay. Morse, excellent. Any of those, anything Illinois, Illinois tool. Any of those that you would find in a commercial shop, but you're going to be paying over $100 for a decent index.
Is the wall any good?
What's that? I'm sorry.
In our shop here, we have Harbor Freight drill bits.
Yeah.
And will not cut anything.
Right. Yeah. Well, that doesn't. Yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't. Yeah. Yes, yes, absolutely. And there's actually, I mean, when I learned, my dad taught me to sharpen them by hand on a grinder. And I had to learn to do that. He made me, and I could still do that, but I can't come close to what, the one on the market that I think is wonderful. I have one, it's called a Drill Doctor. And it's very well designed, and it has a little chuck that you put the bit in. It does it all for you. You set the depth, and you turn it, and it rotates. It's got a cam in there, and it rotates. Got a diamond wheel, and it does a wonderful job of sharpening drill bits. Yeah, you got to be careful. You don't want to heat them up too much when you grind them because you kill the temper on them if they start to change color. You can sharpen drill bits, but getting back to where you can get a lot of the better metalworking tools reasonably, there's a company called MSC. I used to use them for years when I worked in the school. I ordered stuff from them. And that's the company that supplies professional shops. And you can buy the best. Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're huge now. Yeah, you can buy the Granger is another one. You can buy the best. Another good brand of drill bits that you find in good hardware stores are Hanson. Hanson Ace is decent. Vermont American is decent. There's a store on Route 9 that sells professional hand tools, Eppies. They have really good stuff in there. There used to be a place up on Route 22, Force Tool, but they went out of business. There's actually a place in Kenilworth. I can't remember the name of it. Right off the Parkway. It's professional, it's commercial shop supply, sells all the best stuff, and he's really reasonable because he buys a lot of surplus. So sometimes he'll give you a good deal. He'll put indexes of drills together and give you a really good deal. That's another thing. If you want good drill bits, there's a lot of surplus floating around. And Epstein Online used to be another one. A lot of these surplus places sometimes get good ones from the government because the government never bought cheap tools. All their stuff was pretty top shelf. Yeah.
The drill bits themselves, I've seen cobalt, titanium, which is...
That is the coating on the bit. And it does help. But you know, that's there are very good TIN coated drill bits. They're like gold colored, right? Or cobalt coated. And that's good, but you got to do that to a good bit because, you know, otherwise you're just, what do they say, putting lipstick on a pig. It doesn't really, you know, it still won't cut. Like you said, Jules, that the Harbor Freight bits aren't worth it, or they aren't worth a damn. I've seen them, I've used them. Yeah, they're really, I mean, we had a guy brought a whole index of them, and the big box had, you know, if you know drill bits, there's everything you'll be doing here is fractional size, but then you have your numbers and your letters, your tap drills and stuff like that, and they just had everything in it. And I went to use them, and we were drilling into, you know, heavy steel, not just sheet metal, and they just dulled right out. They didn't, kind of useless. But I mean, now they've gotten a lot better with their stuff. I don't know about the drill bits, but I wouldn't recommend them. So.
Is the Walt any good?
I've never used them. They have a good name, so I would think that their drill bits would be decent. Remember, if you're doing this stuff, Milwaukee or DeWalt bits are probably fine. You're not drilling into solid steel for 2 inches. You know, it's not the same thing. But yeah, it's definitely a thought, you know, but you want to get good drill bits. Otherwise, you'll just frustrate yourself. You know. Yeah.
Can't overemphasize the use for protection.
Oh, like I said, you know, in the school, that was a big deal, and, you know, I was big on that, and even with the glasses, I still managed to get metal in my eye twice, right? And once, I actually watched it come up, it hit my face, I felt it hit my face, I watched it bounce off the inside of the lens, and I saw it come, and then I felt it in my eye, just like that, right off of a bandsaw. So it absolutely is, you know, you can't do anything if you can't see, right? Yeah. Yeah. Anything else? Okay.
All right, Darren, thanks a lot. Like Darren said, you want to come up and take a look, feel this, feel that, and get a feel for things. And there's a lot of tools up here most people have never seen.
You want to try out the punch?